Three of us override what apparently the Homes Association has developed as a gold-plated thing that I strongly disagree with. And the fact that we're paying for 80% of it is,
well, don't give so much money. Have them build something that's on scale and it really serves your purposes. You don't need to give them $2 million, give them $1 million. It won't be 27 feet tall. The living room won't be almost half again as tall as this room. Give enough money to build real disaster preparedness and also have.
yeah, but you shouldn't be landing on us, you should be landing on the Homes
Well, I'm
Association.
betting on you for how much you're willing to give them. Now let's get, I have one other point. Is it possible to bring up your financial calculations?
Bob, can I just say, we're not giving anybody anything.
Okay, well,
We are
budgeting.
We are, right, and also, we're getting, in exchange for that, a 60-year right to use the building.
Well, you
So
get that anyway,
we-
with $1 million donation,
But you know what?
$1 million contribution.
But you know what, all we want to do is secure our public safety functions in the building. It's not our perquisite to weigh in on the design, all right? So
If you told them, we're not gonna give you $2 million, we changed their mind, we'll give you $1 million, you know that.
then we'll be renegotiating our lease 30 years from now. We don't want to do that.
It would still be maintained, the scale would be low, it would be less, and the neighbors would be happy, you'd be happy. They might not be so happy because they wouldn't have their 27-foot atrium living room. But let's not mince words about what this really is. This is, you guys are building an elaborate, excessive clubhouse.
Thank you. Yes?
Yes, I want to say that, well, my name is Ruth Martin, and I live on Oak Crest Road, and I'm one of the 45 homes that is not a part of the Sleepy Hollow Homes Association. And I support what Evelyn said about not getting a right to vote on the Sleepy Hollow Clubhouse project as a member of Sleepy Hollow Association. I do agree that as a community partnership, that the load or the budget for this building should be shared more equally. I think that it's way extravagant to spend put 80% of this building into the mix for fire protection and for the uses of the fire protection district. I think that the building is going to be used primarily for recreation, and so the folks who have the benefit of that recreation should be paying the bulk of the cost of that building. Thank you.
Gerald?
The Homeowners Association and the Charitable Foundation can do just exactly as they like with private donation and membership dues. For me, the issue is, and always has been, the improper use of tax dollars that were allocated for fire and emergency services. Our taxes have been paid, money is in place, and the designated use is fire and emergency services. Let me relate one example of why I'm concerned about this letter of intent process. The fire district's August 15th, 2013 minutes show $2 million budgeted for the clubhouse project. Director Shorthall favored spending $75,000 on plan development. $25,000 was authorized lest a public bid process be triggered. In September, Director Finn emailed John Grubb to call when he was ready to proceed. The November 27th, 2013 minutes give retroactive board approval to the $25,000 payment and accompanying agreement executed approximately 7 weeks before. This agreement terminated December 31st, 2013, presumably with the money being spent, bringing the total district funds on the clubhouse to over $81,000 by the end of December 2013. However, the August and November minutes did not appear on the district website until approximately 7 months later in July 2014, along with a sample agreement substantially similar to the actual document signed by the district and the Charitable Foundation 9 months earlier. That does not seem transparent to me. When you negotiated a similar agreement and payment to John Hanley's, the Youth to Work program, you handled it quite differently. The project has a deadly flaw. There is no definition. Each person can freely imagine what the result will be and structure it to be just exactly what he or she wants. And in fact, the four players, the district, the homeowners, the charitable foundation, and the county are describing 4 different projects. This is deceptive. The $2 million is not free money. It is taxes paid in good faith that the expected services will be provided. It is ironic that after so many years of saving for a firehouse, now that we no longer need a firehouse, you appear more focused on a building than on the services that are your statutory purpose. What you have described as the projects of which you are proud, and I agree and endorse, are needed and appropriate. I'm not going to list them because I'm over my time, but none of them need a building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Fowler. I live at 140 Legend Road, and I've lived in the neighborhood for 16 years. I have very fond memories of this building and area. My daughter was on the swim team. I served on the board. And I remember when I served on the board, Holly was the president, and she got a report on the clubhouse and how rodent infested it was. And we all kind of gasped, and I thought, this is horrible. How are we going to be able to raise the money to be able to do this? So when we heard about the Fire Protection Board money and partnering with us, I thought it was brilliant. And I was so delighted that we could save our clubhouse and convert it into a community center and emergency shelter to be able to have both uses and to continue this wonderful place for the community. And I'm hoping my daughter will want to stay in the neighborhood and her kids can come here and have fond memories of swim team and all of the parties and things that happen here with its dual purpose, or multi-purpose, I should say. So I thank you so much for your work, and I strongly support the project.
Thank you. Bruce?
Sure. Thank you. I'm Bruce Baum, 1165 Butterfield Road, and I'm only a 32-year resident of the Hollow. And I ask that my comments be included in the public record. First of all, thank you for responding to a lot of questions that we had, a lot of questions that were specifically in my comment letter. I do appreciate that. I believe it's a breach of fiduciary duty that this board has not hired an independent public financing advisory firm or a certified independent public finance advisor to analyze the best and the highest use options for our reserves. A lot of my comments have been addressed, and I'm just going to jump through this thing. The district has posted on the website a document that Tom referred to, called Summary Analysis of Emergency Center Financial Value. It's disingenuous to use data supplied by, quote, real estate professionals, unquote, in lieu of a bona fide, independent, public financing advisory firm. Why would you present unsubstantiated data from an anonymous, no longer anonymous, possibly biased source? Many assumptions are conjecture, erroneous, and inapplicable for this proposal. Clearly, there are better uses for our money for fire protection and safety than funding the so-called, quote, project close quote, including, but not limited to, better egress from the valley in an emergency, staffing Fire Station 20 with a paramedic on the 3rd shift. While I agree that there's a need to upgrade Mira, I'm concerned about the backup plans that Mira has. Zayo Fiber is for a backup plan for communications with our JPA members and the Emergency Operations Center. I'm recommending that you hire a communications consultant to recommend a backup communications plan, not solely relying on Mira's backup plan of using cellular and mobile devices. Look no further than lessons learned after 9/11, Hurricanes Katrina, Sandy, and other disasters. We can't rely on mobile in Sleepy Hollow. We have very limited communications for long periods. This is an unacceptable plan. Director Shortall, while having strong credentials, is our mirror rep and is vested in getting the $29 per property mirror bond approved. His comments about mirror backup should be questioned. We need an objective analysis of the highest and best use option of our ratepayers' reserves. It's the board's fiduciary responsibility to send out a request for proposal to get at least 3 bids from independent public financial advisory firms. In closing, I trust the board will rely on the merits of comments relative to fire protection and safety. Non-factual comments extolling purely social functions of the project, while personally gratifying to the directors, do not address the statutory purpose of the district and are irrelevant. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Good, so second time around now. John Grubb. No, John?
I just wanted to, so I'm John Grubb, live on Van River, and I'm the chair of the City Hall Charitable Foundation, past president of the Home Association. And we have raised contributions now from approximately 250 families, which is qualifies as, according to the U.S. Census, about 900 residents of Sleepy Hollow in their households. And all of us are in support of this project, in support of making our residents safer, and not doing this as the converse of making us safe. And so we thank you for your work, and I urge you to move forward.
Thank you.
First comment, Dave Beach, 19 Mather, I've been here a while, I'm a member of the Home Association. When this project was first proposed, I was a little bit skeptical about the scope. Very early on in the project, the concept of community disaster preparedness was integrated into the scope of the project. The development of that involvement has been executed exceptionally. I was one of the early donors to the Homeowners Association Foundation because of the community emergency preparedness piece. And so myself and my wife support what the fire board and the direction that the fire board, well, number one, thank the fire board for all the work they put into this unbelievable amount of work. And we support the direction that they're heading 100% in terms of supporting the renovation project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, hi, my name is Luke Argilla, and I've lived in the community about 35 years. And I remember the first Saturday after we moved into our home, March or April or May, woke up and there were cars coming up around our house all over the neighborhood, and kids getting out of their cars wearing these cute little swimsuits, and guns going off and loud noises and kids yelling. You could hear swimmers to your marks and all that sort of thing. And I had no idea that I didn't even know this community facility was here. I certainly didn't know that there was a swim team. And you could describe that as a nuisance, as a problem, as something that we didn't buy into, but it's part of our community. The swim team, this facility, we ended up being involved in that program for 16 years. It's one of the best things our family ever did. But we live 2 houses away from here, and there's a little bit of a nuisance involved. You could describe it as a nuisance, but even today, even this past swim season, when I look out my door and see those cars pulling up and parking in front of my house and around the block and up the street, it just warms my heart. Absolutely warms my heart. I love it. And so, you know, for those of us who may be close by, you gotta put up with that kind of thing. It's just part of living in the community, and it happens to people all over the place. So, enough said about that. This is a home run. It's an absolute home run. And the due diligence that these three guys have done is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And we can nitpick about coffee bars and that sort of thing, and we can talk about, some of us can talk about discrimination. That's a big, big word to use in a context like this, as far as I'm concerned. But this is a project that will benefit this community and those surrounding this community in just a phenomenal way. And in terms of the details of the arrangement and the contracts and the leases and all of that, I think it's going to be a very tough road to hoe. But it's not a one-sided negotiation, it's a two-sided negotiation. And so scaling this back down to a $1 million project, I don't think the Homes Association would have any part of it. It's not going to work for them. So, you know, there's a lot of work to be done yet, a lot of details to be negotiated, and I think the association is going to negotiate in their best interest, the board will negotiate in their best interest, and hopefully there'll be a meeting of the minds that's going to work for everybody.
Thank you. Okay, round two, Connie Bertel.
I'd like to clarify something that Frank, my husband, said about opposing the project. We don't oppose the rebuilding of this clubhouse. I don't think anyone opposes the rebuilding. What he and I personally feel is that the interior architectural plan is flawed, is poor, as a matter of fact. I mean, a lot of duplicative things, coffee bar, fitness center, libraries. Come on, we have those outside and very good ones too. But this is not the place to argue the design. The community, well, the county planning department is the place, and the commission meeting, the planning commission meeting is the place to make those comments. And he and I intend to do that as a personal level, on a personal level. But as far as the rebuilding goes, it needs to be done. Tower or no tower, and I hope there's no tower.
Does somebody else start?
Yeah, I've been sitting here for quite a while. My name is Dave Grubb. I've had a little bit to do with the Homes Association before. I moved here, was trying to figure that out. Everybody's so proud of it. We live at 33 Van River. We lived in another house here too. And we started in, I think it was over 40 years ago. So we've been in this community for 40 years. I, like Luke, like the swim team. Our kids got into it, greatest thing going. I think what you're building here now is not only a fire protection district, disaster area, but you're building a community center. And I happened to grow up in one where we had volunteer fire department. They met at this community center. Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, all met there. It was a great place. It's back in West Virginia. And I think that the community as a whole, and it became their disaster, because at the time, I remember, unfortunately, it was the Second World War. We had those funny sirens going on all the time. Everybody went to the disaster center as soon as you could. I also lived here when we had a disaster. We had a big flood.
Yeah.
You couldn't get into this place. And there was the river, or this creek down by, not Green Valley, it's on down, further down is a real problem. But it was 3 feet high over the road. I personally had to go up over the hill over here and walk in to get to the house and help the family get through the flood. That's a disaster. And if you have a place like this you can go to, at least you have some comfort and you have the place to do it. And I disagree. I think you should have a larger space. You should have more community, and all the stuff that you need for disaster. Because this place is something that could happen, that a disaster can happen here, because the fire person was talking about the ridge line. You ever been on a ridge line when fire comes? I was in this area, in the very houses you guys were talking about are not in part of the Homes Association. Because I never forget, what do you take when a fire comes? This person took a pan. I'm thinking about all the things that you want to get out of a house. And it's not a pan, I'll tell you that. Anyway, I think the project is good. I think you guys have done a hell of a good job. You've negotiated well. I think you'll continue to negotiate well. And I don't have any problem with the whole thing. I think it should be bigger.
Thank you. John?
Just some clarification. It was said that the new building would be a blight, I believe was the word, to their ambiance or whatever. I think that's a bit of an overstretch to say that the new building would be a blight, number one. Number two, as far as the unneeded space, because it's really not an emergency shelter, but it's a privileged section of the community, presumably affluent, although that would be false, to include all of us Homes Association members as being affluent. I would say it's more accurately defined as someone who wants to participate in the community as opposed to choose to isolate themselves from the community. Regarding the space is for, in the event of an emergency, the floods that we had that Mr. Grubb just described, to be able to congregate and to shelter in. The fact that it may serve a dual purpose doesn't negate that fact. Now, personally speaking, this clubhouse, this facility, emergency or not, has never, in the 38, 37 years that I've lived here, been a community focus. It's been a rather unattractive building that happens to be on Butterfield, that gets used for the swim team, nursery school, whatever. But it really did not serve the community at large. The whole concept of coming up with a new building, a new facility, is to primarily act as a shelter for the community in the event of a crisis. But it could also serve a purpose of coalescing the community. So instead of having 390 homes within the hollow boundaries that are not members of the Homes Association, perhaps this might invite some incentive for them to participate more in the community, which is, after all, what we all want. So I just wanted to get some clarification of that. Regarding the height, it's all